Okay, people of the internet, my name is Udur Jagero and this is Dialogues with Jagero and this is Pleasure Principle episode 2. Mr. Matheka.
Yes.
You're always giving us a lot of insight. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Great. Let's talk about media role, the impact of societal norms on sexual self-perception. So the media's role, how media shapes sexual expectations and body image. I think body image is going to be a very interesting thing because we have seen a lot of women having problems with their bodies because they've been told that for you to be good, then you have to be slim. You have to be petite, and then the cultural factors, exploration of how different cultures view sexuality. And then we are going to be looking at peer pressure. Okay. What is your view on how the media, treats sex and sexual education?
Like they know it, yet they don't. It's like when somebody calls you and they interview you, then you get to read what they wrote. Most of it, they've misquoted you. Why? Because when you answered something they were not expecting, they gave their perception. So, for example, if you gave masturbation a thumbs up, they will tweak it a bit to look like you said masturbation was wrong. Because they are writing based on their teachings and not what you spoke of. So what was the point of the interview? So I feel that the media will misquote, the media will write about, they'll fantasize sexuality, but you also have to look at it this way. They're trying to sell content, they're trying to sell a paper, they're trying to sell a headline, they're trying to sell 10 ways to have an orgasm. And if those 10 ways actually worked, I'd be out of business or I'd be using them myself. So clearly they don't work. But for those who are not, who lack the information, who are not educated in that field, they wouldn't know any better. So what you're doing is you're just preying on an audience that knows no better. It's as simple as that. So I have a problem with the fact that some articles are written by somebody in depth, yet they have no professional scope on the subject matter. So they probably copy-pasted somewhere and changed a few things, but that's not your original work. That's somebody else's. And then the thing is this, you can't get an article from Estonia and tweak it a bit and then make it Kenyan. Our sexual cultures and experiences could be so different. So you've given Kenya an Estonian flavor. And guess what? Your reader will believe you. They know your articles. They know you write those articles. You have power. You need to realize you have power. So if most of the things you're writing are not based on your knowledge, then you're deceiving your audience. So I feel that in every sector in the media, people have goals, they have targets to meet, so they have to get material somewhere. Sometimes when somebody interviews me, they're only interviewing me because they feel that I'm knowledgeable, but I'm offended when you do not speak of what I said. You tweak it a bit to, as they say, for it to be more friendlier to the audience. Yet, your audience are not stupid people. Your audience can, and the reason why I say this is because I've had people read an article that apparently I quoted so many things, and my true followers, they'll tell me, I read an article, Maurice, and half the stuff I read there, I know you didn't say it. Why? Because that's not you. You don't even believe in what was written there. So whoever was writing it edited it to tweak what their beliefs are, and that's very unprofessional.
I mean, journalistically, I think a lot of people have blamed the journalist, especially even worldwide. And this is why they are talking about the bot press, the press that pander towards, the left or the right. So you find, for example, the war in Ukraine, a lot of Western, magazines and news organizations that've got almost the same narrative of what is going on in Ukraine.
Yeah.
If you look at the way sex and gender is treated, they've got always that one-dimensional look at it. And there is a lot of, I think it stems from this cancel culture, that if you say something, even if you're reporting it, because journalistically we know that you can report facts, and we also know that you can give an opinion on fact. And my opinion these days is that a lot of news organizations are basically giving opinion instead of writing facts.
Yes.
And I feel that is very, very problematic, even in the gender discussion.
Yeah.
Where I read an article in the New York Times, no, not in New York Times, sorry, Men's Health.
Right.
And they were talking about the genders you need to know. And they wrote about 27 genders.
Yes. In the UK, there's over 100 now.
So, but then there is no quoting of any health professional. Like, you really can't tell where they are getting this information. All they are telling you that this is a gender and this is the definition of it.
Yes.
So somebody can wake up today and decide that, okay, this is my gender. I am called cis whatever.
Yes.
And that's a gender, and they will pick it and they will put it in the national.
There's no backing at all.
Yes.
It's just making up stuff.
It's just making up stuff.
And the unfortunate thing is, I think this is one thing that the world needs to understand. There are facts and then there are opinions. Your opinion cannot be a fact. To be honest, I'm not a believer that everyone is entitled to an opinion. Do you know why? Jagero, if I go to a convention to do with the liver, the heart, astronomy, what it takes to be an astronaut. Just because I watched Armageddon, it doesn't give me a right to suddenly know what being an astronaut is all about. So when I go to that conference, the one thing I should do is shut up, sit down, and listen and learn. When I start having an opinion about space and how astronauts should land in space, yet I have no background in that type of engineering, really, what are we then telling current and future? What are we telling them? I don't have an opinion. It's like the building we're in. I don't know anything about being an architect. If you gave me a project where I had to build a building, it would probably be the most unsafe building, because I'm sure I wouldn't get it right. There's somebody who spent 8 to 10 years learning how that structure is going to survive 99 years, learning how it aesthetically is going to look. How then do I have an opinion?
They say that I feel like this house is slanted. And you should respect my feelings, that I feel like these windows are going to come out tomorrow. I have a feeling that this ceiling is going to fall down on me. That's my feeling. Respect my feeling.
Wow. All I can say is humans have become weak and flaky.
Yeah.
We've given them a lot of power. That's why I'm also against a child graduating from class 4 to 5. What was the other option? I mean, it's just the order that from 4 you go to 5, from 5 you go to 6. Why we're graduating kids and telling them that they're brilliant when they were number 15 in the class, I don't know. I think we're just breeding a very weak society, and it reflects in many other things we're going to do in the workplace, in our relationships. We should just stop that nonsense. You should have an opinion when you're good at that particular trade, that topic, then have an opinion. Do you know what I'm saying? If I sat here with people who are good at aviation, What do I know about planes? No, really, what do I know about planes?
And the thing is that if people who are in the aviation industry can squabble and spar.
Yes.
And say, no, I feel like this is how it should go.
Yes.
But
you and I, who are not in that area, should just sit down and listen. What opinion should I have? Maybe I should be like, my only opinion is, I think I've eaten too much chicken. Why don't you guys do pork on your planes? Now that might be an opinion because it's got nothing to do with the plane.
Yes.
That's something to do with what I'm going to be served.
Yes.
But I can't sit there going like, I think the turbines on this new 77, what do I know about turbines?
I think this thing is going to suck all the birds in the air.
Yeah, like what the hell? Who gave me the authority to talk about that?
But talking about the media.
Yes.
I think it's a catch 27. Is this catch 27 or 21?
22.
Oh, 22.
But we can make up numbers. It's a catch 44.
Yes, catch 42. So you have people in the media who are just ordinary people.
Yes.
They're journalists.
Yes.
They have studied journalism, and they have studied writing and all those things, like I have done. But then when the idea of sex education is put on my shoulders, I tend to suffer, and I don't know. For example, I am a journalist. I was raised in the village. I don't know much about dating and all these things. Then somebody puts me in a newsroom and expects me to curate this kind of thing for the audience.
Yeah.
You see where I am placed in a very bad place and position.
Yeah.
And I'm not able to execute it properly.
Right.
My only problem is that the media should understand that fact and say that although we are here, we are conveyors of information. We are standing in the middle ground so that Mr. Matheka comes, who is a sex expert, to talk about these things and we should let him lay it bare for us to understand.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
And if we feel that Matheka is saying something that is 18 years and above, then program it at that time. Because when Matheka is coming, he's a sexologist. Look at the title. Find a place where you should be able to put that program. Now, they don't want to do that. They want to put it when kids are not asleep. And then that's when they begin to twist it.
Yeah.
To make it sound better.
Yeah.
And you told me that you're not sometimes comfortable when you're in these media stations doing an interview at 7 a.m. Because in their heads, why are they in my mind? Why are they doing it at 7 a.m.?
Yeah, but you see, the thing is, my issue is this: at 7 a.m., whoever your audience is, we're not going to be talking about anything vulgar. What I have an issue, like for example, I had one experience, and the producer came and told me, Madaka, because this is the topic. It's going to force you to use words like vagina and penis. So we have replaced those words for you, and you won't believe it. They actually had words for me to replace penis, and I can tell you, and vagina. I can tell you the words they chose were even worse in terms of implication. Yeah, like they were more sexual. And the thing is this: vagina and penis are the authentic words. Those are the bodily parts. The problem is you're over-sexualizing it. If we were talking about the nose and the liver, you wouldn't. So why suddenly the vagina is a muscle? It is flesh. Do you see what I'm saying? And so is the penis. So I had to tell them, if that's the case, then I'm not going to do the show. Guess what happened? We did the show. Because they needed content. And I was there. I was ready to walk off. For real.
But then that also...
Because at the end of the day, I don't really need you, but you need me. That was my attitude.
The other thing that we also need to talk about now that you've brought it up is the idea of names.
Yeah.
Where some names are not, some words are not supposed to be. And I can tell you for a fact that some people don't like hearing the word vagina. Some
But
people
it's
don't
the
like
it's
hearing
the biological name.
the penis. Some people don't want to hear, there are so many words that people just don't want to hear.
Do you know why they don't want to hear it?
Yeah.
Because they sexualize it. They over sexualize it.
They
are the ones with naughty. They're the ones with
it.
Yes.
What does that mean?
It means when they hear the vagina, they think of all the trashy things they've done. The word vagina is very innocent. It just describes a location on a female body. It does not describe two naked people having sex. That's where the person who's demonizing it has gone. When you say penis, you're describing
the male phallus. I like that.
Yes, the male organ, which has different attributes, correct? But the person who's hating it has overthought it. They've gone to a very dark place. So who has the problem? It's the person thinking, not the name. How come if I start mentioning the nose, no one's going to be offended by the nose? Do you know what I'm saying? Not unless they sneeze too much. But my point is, the nose is safe, our ears are safe, our eyes are safe. But even when you go to the lips, there's some people who will sexualize lips. If I start saying, oh yeah, when the lips look a certain way, people will sexualize lips. Because those are the areas of the body that people link to some form of sexual act. But it's wrong to think that way. So they're the ones with the problem, not the names of the bodily parts. They're the issue, not the topic. We can discuss the vagina and not be vulgar, because we could be discussing how the vagina functions. It functions. For example, if you talk about urination, we both do. Both genders do. So if we talked about the urethra, why are you sexualizing that? It's a passageway. It secretes liquid. It can either be urine or semen for the man. Why have we sexualized that? If I am teaching a class of students and they're taking notes, I don't expect any of them to sexualize what I'm trying to teach them. I want you to understand that organ. I want you to understand what it's made of, how it reacts, how it responds. I don't want us to giggle and sexualize it. Then your mind has gone somewhere it shouldn't. Why aren't you giggling when I talk about the toe?
We're a giggling society.
Why aren't you giggling when I talk about the toe? Yet there's some people who like sucking toes. But because your brain does not translate toes as sexual, so it's acceptable. That's nonsense. I think we should also tell people most of your ailments are self-inflicted. You went there. I didn't go there. When I'm talking about sexuality, I'm not modeling it based on two people actually performing the act. I'm talking about the different variables and the different ways of looking at what sexuality looks like out there. We're not here to sexualize things. We can put sexual humor to it and have a bit of a laugh, because laughing is great for the soul. But other than that, you're deciphering information, teaching people about things they may not have known, or just changing a perception about something so they're better equipped to understand it.
I think that brings us to the shame.
Yes.
About our sexual bodies.
Right.
Some of the things that, in our village, people bathe in the river.
But Africans have been doing that for
I'm talking,
millions of years.
Yes, I'm talking about my village. Do they do that in Cumberland? They don't even have lakes in Cumberland.
No, we have rivers.
Oh, so you do this?
Let's just put it this way.
Yeah.
Do I look like somebody who does not drink water? See, me, I live in Okambani.
Yes.
Let's just start there.
I'm not taking a dig at you.
No, I know you're not. My point is this. Every village has similarities. So will you go to Cumberland and find some people bathing in a river or in some water? Yes. Now, the city dwellers may say that that is very shady, that is very unhygienic, blah, blah, blah. Yet, the person who's bathing in that river hardly gets sick, and you in your concrete city get sick all the time. Hence why you've got Nairobi Hospital, Aga Khan Hospital. That guy His therapy is the river. His immune system is working perfectly. Yours doesn't work.
Shit.
Yet, our ancestry have lived the river life far longer than we've known cities. True or false?
True.
But yet, we hold on to the city as if that's what humans have known for the last God knows how many millions of years. So, if we start there, you see how foolish we are. Some of our perceptions are so wrong. I love some lifestyles people have in shags. Because one, you can go into somebody's house and you deem them as they don't have money, but they share the little they have. You with the much that you have. When visitors knock on the door and you did not have a prior arrangement to have visitors, you start sulking, you start complaining, not to their face, but behind their backs. Why didn't they say? Today I was not ready to entertain and share my meal. Yet when you go to shags, somebody insists that I must kill a kuku for you. And you only ask for. And dare you say you want to pay for it, that's an insult. No, when you come to my home, I appreciate you by killing an animal for you. So I'm going to kill that animal. And you're not supposed to object. Who are more courteous? Who are being more decent humans? The guy in shags. The guy you're laughing at, that he's, what's it called? Doofing. Yet your ancestry did a lot of doofing as a lifestyle. They were hunter-gatherers. Now our hunter-gathering is going to Carrefour. We have no survival skills at all. Yet our ancestors could walk from here to Voi. They knew the channels. Will they meet animals? Yes, but they knew how to handle them. Today, when you see a Maasai walking through Masai Mara, and there's a lion not too far away, do you see that lion attacking him?
No.
No, because there's a genetic relationship between them and the lions. I adore that. Jigger, you and I, if we are landed at Masai Mara, what do you think is going to happen?
They're going to sniff us out.
Yes. First, you and I just look like burgers. We're going to be munched like no one's business. Do we have survival skills? Do we? Can you survive in the jungle for a week?
I doubt.
And fend for yourself?
I doubt.
Yet our ancestors could. So if we were to look at human problems, part of it is that a lot of what we used to be, we're no longer there. I always say when it comes to being African, I think we only use like 1% of whatever Africans used to look like.
Interesting. Cultural factors, exploration of how different cultures view sexuality. And I think you have lived in the UK.
Yes.
You have lived in other parts of the world.
Yes.
You have lived in your own country, Kenya.
Yes.
And then in our country, we have different cultures.
Yes.
Like, for example, the Kambas and how they view sex. Completely different from how we view the Luos view sex. And all other...
But if I may ask, how far back are we looking? Because today, I can tell you, the sexual culture in terms of teachings that Kambas once had, and this I was told, lucky enough, by people who are no longer here, but people who were born like in 1914 or even before. I got at least the privilege of talking to them, and one thing they confirmed is what Kambas are today is not what we were before. Today there's no sexual teachings.
What has changed?
What has changed is the introduction of religion. It wiped out what our cultures were, what our bombers taught people in terms of sexuality. Today we hold on to religion, and religion has demonized sex. So you're right, we have different cultures. So you find some tribes suffer in regards to when you're in a relationship, especially when you're in a marriage, versus another one who are a bit more open. But I can see some tribes are in a modern way awakening some of these teachings.
Yeah.
Which should start early. But as for the Kambas, I can tell you no. Unless you go to some very remote place where they've not been indoctrinated by, the larger scope of religion, then you might find small pockets of, the passed on traditional teachings and stuff. But majority of people, that died, unfortunately.
We talked about, when outside the set, we talked about circumcision, and you were you defended it with your life.
Okay, I didn't defend it with my life. I think that's a bit of an exaggeration. What I was basically narrating was you mentioned a friend of yours.
Yes.
Is totally against it because after he lost his foreskin, he said sex was no longer the same for him. So I was just trying to explain that you mentioned that the foreskin has so many nerve endings, and it's not really about the nerve endings. It's the fact that the foreskin, being a hood that covers his penis head, was giving him a sensation. It was rubbing, it was massaging him during the sexual act. And now, because he does not have it, that sensation is left. So it's not really about sex has become less pleasurable, is what was giving him that ultimate pleasure was cut away. It's as simple as that.
And that is his gripe.
Yes,
but
now
why would you this thing that is very, because he was telling me, and I think after he was cut,
yes,
he has done a lot of research around this thing, and he is saying that most of the people that were cut when they were children, that's all they know. The sex that they get after circumcision, because you're circumcised when you're 9, 6, right? And then you grow up and you start, sleeping with women, having sex with women, and the sensation that you have is what you know, right? That's what you know.
Yes.
But then if you are cut in adulthood, there was the before, and then there is the after.
Correct.
And now he's saying that the cut that was done to him is what has robbed him of the pleasure. So he's correct, right?
Yes, he is. Because he has something to compare.
He has something to compare.
So yes, correct. He is correct.
And that is for example, in lots of our Kenyan culture, they embrace circumcision. It's something that they embrace. But then there are people who are all saying that I think that somebody should be able to have their own experience and then decide if a part of you should be cut out or not. Because when you're cutting out the foreskin of a 9-year-old, they are not consenting to it.
I hear you.
Yes.
However, what's the drive to cut the foreskin?
They say that it has got... By the way, what do they say in Cumberland? Because in Luo we don't cut it, so we don't know what they are saying.
Okay, I'm not really talking about Cumberland, because let's just put it this way.
Or even Kikuyus, people cut this thing all over.
Yes.
Yeah.
However, there was a time when no one in Africa was cut. You do realize that?
No.
It's not been that way for ages.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Most of these practices were introduced to us. It's not that Luos suddenly were not cutting and everybody else had a conversation and said, let's cut the skin. That was not the case. Like you find men who were born in the 1800s in Africa, majority of them were not cut. So it was brought here by those we used to call master. And it's as simple as that. And then we took it in, like many things we've taken, and then we rubbished what we used to look like as Africans. Then, as we evolved, there came the conversation of when the foreskin is there and a man has gone to urinate, when his penis head retracts back into the foreskin, the urine that the small traces of urine in the urethra, when it starts to spew out, and also the heat that's created by the covering of that foreskin starts to manifest bad bacteria. So you find that area smelling. And there was also the discussion that that same man, even though he may not be sensing that smell, he still has to sleep with a woman, and that bacteria that's forming within his foreskin will now start changing her vaginal pH. So there was a whole health conversation. And that's what drove the whole circumcision thing. So now the question is, as you say, should we now give everyone the right to choose whether to be circumcised or not? Now I can tell you what's going to happen. Women are not going to be too happy with the fact that now their vagina is not part of the discussion. So you don't want to be circumcised. That's fine. But now, isn't it my right to choose what enters me? Your foreskin, based on your hygiene level, is manifesting bad bacteria between where your penis head girth is and the hood that covers that penis head. Now, isn't it my right to say I don't want that bacteria in me?
Yes. And what I am saying is, why don't we talk about the hygiene?
Yes, but now, do we then now have a system where the men who do not want to be cut have to make sure that they take care of their hygiene? And let me tell you something, because I know us men. Don't you sometimes go to a toilet and you wonder, these Neanderthals that were peeing here, why are you peeing on the floor? Now, if that guy who pees on the floor is the same guy.
We don't pee on the floor. It spills on the floor. You need to be on the side of men sometimes.
No.
You need to be on the side of men sometimes.
No. Dude.
I'm listening.
Dude.
I'm listening.
They're accidental. When you're shaking it and a few drops go on the floor, that happens. You should go to a urinal and see a guy start peeing on the wall, and then suddenly he now faces the right trajectory. And I'm asking the guy, you're not even high. Why the hell did you do that? Why did you have to splash some on the wall and then suddenly into the bowl? There are men who do that. There are men who are uncouth. And all I'm saying is this. I'm not defending women. I'm just defending the fact that there are men who are not going to abide by these rules. They're not.
I think that if you're talking about hygiene, even if you cut the man and his hygiene is dubious, there's still gonna be a problem.
Exactly. And look at it. No, it's not. It's gone. Okay, when you cut the man, yes, the hygiene is minimized because there's no longer a hood. I mean, I don't know if you're aware of this, but in my docket, this is something I have to deal with. I have plenty of women who either text me, email me, or call me to ask me one question. Why is it my husband, who is in his 30s or 40s, why am I finding skid marks on all his boxers? Why doesn't this guy know how to wipe his ass? What do I tell her? I don't share an ass with her husband. What do I tell her? But it's telling me a story. They're grown-ass men who don't know how to wipe their ass. Now you want to give that guy responsibility of taking care of his penis, yet he can't wipe his ass.
You see, now the problem
He
is
can smell poop.
we can't circumcise the ass. We can't circumcise the ass.
How you went to circumcising the ass, I have no idea.
Because
but my point is this.
What you're trying to do is...
By the way, let me tell you something.
You tell me.
Whether you're circumcised or not,
yes,
considering you're never going to penetrate me, I care less.
Yes.
But if we're going to have a national debate, the debate should also cover the fact that the vagina needs also to be happy by not being infected with bacteria. That's negative.
That is true. That is fair.
So if we can find a way for all men who do not want to be cut to make sure that the vagina is always happy, considering that's where you like placing this thing of yours, we'll be fine.
That's good.
But if you're absconding from vaginas, you can have all the bacteria you want. You and that bacteria can be pals. You can be taking walks to the park and stuff. But as long as you want to penetrate the vagina, then there should be some ethical code of this is the standard you need to maintain your penis. The same way when you're entering some people's homes, don't they tell you to remove your shoes?
Yes.
Yes. So unless you can remove your hood when you're penetrating the vagina, you just need to learn how to make sure it's clean.
I also thought that the vagina is well aware, has got, ways of protecting itself.
No. We're not going to arm the vagina. This is not the making of vagina Vikings. Let's just make sure what's penetrating the vagina has no negative bacteria. Okay? Let's not start shielding.
Dude, what happens to women then that do not really go the hygienic way? Don't they also affect the men?
Yes, they do.
How so?
There are women who sometimes may struggle with certain infections, and those infections, you and I can smell them, but they can't. But sometimes you find even the man is not aware of what's affecting him, unless he does some research. And then the other thing I've seen is, even once he finds out, oh my God, it's my woman who's been doing this to me, he doesn't know how to confront it. He doesn't know how to tell her, babe, I think there's something wrong, and I think you should go and see a gynecologist. Now, did you notice I did not mention what the area that is wrong, but by adding the word gynecologist, I've given a hint of what I want to say. Now, I've heard men tell me, I can't even say that because I'm afraid I'll offend her. So we're not even willing to just tell people the truth. You're not doing it out of malice. You're just saying, you know what? I think you may have an infection, and maybe you need to go see a gynecologist and, get an opinion there. That should not offend you. If anything, it should be, whoa, okay, thanks for telling me. That's the ideal world we should be living in. It shouldn't be offensive.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm a real partner to somebody, and if a woman comes and says, Maurice, I don't think you've been cleaning him the way you should. Sometimes, especially when you want me to put my mouth somewhere around him, there's like a smell. So maybe you should check that up. Now, if I behave in a way of being offended, it means I don't care about her opinion. It means the one place I like being in, I don't care what condition I'm in to enter it. Doesn't that make me selfish? So I should do something about it. In the same breath, I should have the energy and the will to tell her that she has an issue. But you see, now that goes back to what we were discussing before, the constraints we have as humans. We want to make everyone happy all the time, yet that's not how things work. And yet it's not about making them sad. It's just sometimes the information that you're going to receive from people is not always going to be a positive. But neither is it a negative. It's just a caution that, you know what, maybe you've slipped up somewhere, and maybe if you fix that, things will be better.
Great. We're winding down this episode. But we can't wind it down before we talk about peer pressure.
Right.
And a lot of my age mates have told me that Mateka is giving us a lot of peer pressure.
How am I giving them peer pressure? Give me context.
These guys are telling us, lick the vagina, lick the pussy, do this, treat the vagina right, blah blah blah. But before you rush in to defend yourself, I want to tell you something.
Okay.
I want to discuss with you something else.
Right.
There are things. The other day, I think last year, my wife sent me a link, and I rejected her suggestion.
You haven't said what it is, though.
Yeah, I'm gonna say. So it was this many, a lot of things that I would like to do during sex, my fantasies and things like that.
That you would like to do.
Yes. So you tick. They have list.
Okay.
So you tick, and then you compare it with your spouse.
Okay.
And if you sort of like the same thing, then you start doing them.
Okay.
All right. And the first thing that I found with it was that I realized that at some point during that conversation, there is a lady who actually came up with it and put it online on Twitter. And it generated a lot of excitement amongst women. And women were sending it to their better half.
Okay.
You know? So they send you. First of all, I had a problem with the privacy issues around that thing. Because it's a link, you key them all in and you submit.
But you don't key in your personal details, do you?
You do.
Like your name?
You put your name.
Like what? Maurice Madeka?
Yes, how old are you? Blah, blah, blah. The email, and then they send that form back to you for you to print and have a copy.
Right.
And I'm just thinking, if I'm just taking it, I don't need a copy of it. You know? And then when you start it, you must pair yourselves. So you must pair yourselves. You pair yourself with it because they send you a link. They give you a link to send to the other person you want to send.
Right.
So when that person gets the link, you are linked. And that is how when you finish and submit, the person on the other side gets your results.
Right.
And the other person gets your results.
Yes.
Right? And I found very crazy things going on there about the things you should do in sex. And as a techie person, I decided that I'm not going to fill this thing in. And I felt like there was a lot of peer pressure. First on my wife, she was under pressure to give it to me. And I was under pressure to do it for her.
Okay.
And I ultimately declined to do it and explained that I think that this is peer pressure. I think there is a lot of privacy issues around this particular form, and I don't want to do it. The other day you were talking about how we should eat the vagina and things like that, and my friends were like, "Tell that guy of yours that let him not pressurize us." So I want you to ignore those people that are saying that, but then just go because you're spoiling for war. I don't want war. I don't want war. Okay, say something then.
I think for those who follow me rather than maybe watching a snippet or a short video of something I said, will attest to the fact that I have never told men what they need to do. What I have said is what other men do. Now, if for example, I am feeling some peer pressure because some guy in Formula One drives a car at 300 kilometers per hour, then I need to assess myself. I can't tell Lewis Hamilton, "Hey, dude, can you drive at 100? Because that's what we're used to. This 300 kilometers per hour is depressing us." That's my struggle, not his. So if any man has struggled because of something I've said, I wasn't telling them to do it. I was just telling them that some of us are Lewis Hamilton. That's it. If you take offense to it, if it distresses you, don't do it. Just don't. I'm not going to drive a car at 300 kilometers per hour, but I'm going to sleep knowing that Lewis Hamilton does it. And on Sundays, I'm going to enjoy watching him doing it. So you can tell your friends, they can come and watch me licking if they want, but they should not be distressed by it. It's as simple as that. I'm not going to be your therapy when you have your own distresses. After all, aren't we told to be men? Aren't we told to man up?
There is something that you told me.
Yes.
The other day, I think we were in our first episode.
Right.
And you talked about hearing things and trying to do them. And sometimes, walking on hot coals is not good for you. Some people can decide to do that. The last time you talked about jumping on chandeliers and telling women that I'm going to do what to your chandeliers,
Yet you can't spell chandelier.
Yes. Talk to us about peer pressure in sex education. Yeah, some of the things that we can avoid, some of the things we should embrace, and basically how to treat it.
Okay, first and foremost, never be pressurized to do what others are doing. If your friend who is male has 3 girlfriends, you're not less of a man because you have one or you have none. Maybe there's something more productive you're doing with your life. Maybe he has 3 boyfriends, but 3 girlfriends, and he's always broke. You're working on a project or some investment, and you can travel the world. I don't think him having 3 girlfriends quantifies as a better man. So whatever it is, first, live within your bounds. Let's not compete. Do you see what I'm saying? Peer pressure comes from so many places. When it comes to our sexuality is, why can't I afford to take her to art cafe? Do you know what? You don't need to take her to art cafe. First and foremost, if taking her to art cafe is what's going to connect you, then she's the wrong person for you, or he's the wrong guy for you. You need to have the person who will tell you, even though we're at art cafe, if you just took me to a park and you lay down a lesso or whatever it is, and we just did a picnic and it was inexpensive, as long as I'm in your space, I'm happy. That's the person you should invest your time in. If I'm talking to men, what I can tell you is, stop trying to please women with something you don't have. Please them with what you have. And what you have is, if you're not happy with kamakis, please go find the guy who likes going for dinners at Sankara. It's as simple as that. Because what's going to happen is, you're going to insist on taking her to kamakis. She's going to follow suit. But next week when you hear some guy took her to some posh place outside the country, you start trying to kill yourself. Why? There is a woman who loves kamakis just like you. Every time she smells that smoke, she gets turned on. Why are you dealing with somebody else who's turned on by food that you cannot even get full on? Find your tribe. They're there. Find people who are like-minded. Today, can you say Nairobi West does not have its patrons? It has, correct? Because if you try and tell them to go somewhere that's a bit more upscale, they're like, no, that's not our feel. It's not poverty. It's a feel. The same way sometimes Kenyans love bundus. We want to get away from the normal concrete thing. Take somewhere bundus. He's very excited. Like, wow, I like this. You know, it's very rough, rugged. Exactly. Find your tribe. Stop trying to compete with the next guy. If you find a woman and she's asking for things you can't deliver, you're not a useless man. She's just not the girl that you should be with. If anything, you should be with a girl who tells you, you know what? Right now, there's no need to spend that kind of money. We can go somewhere else and still have fun. Wow. That woman has your back. Struggle to look for that one. Don't struggle to look for means to please somebody who will never appreciate the effort it took. Do you see what I'm saying? And as wonderful as they are, they're going to stress you out. If you ever feel you're doing something unnatural, and unnatural means you're doing the extra mile just to please somebody who could easily not be within your space tomorrow or next week, kill that story. And just tell the universe, you know what, just bring forth somebody who is compatible.
The last time you talked about living our lives as men, living our lives as women.
Yeah.
That dating costs money.
Yes.
Being in love costs money.
Yes.
How do you...
Especially fictitious love. Fictitious love is, I'm better than Jagero. Jagero took her to some restaurant in Milimani. I've booked us a flight and we're just going for lunch, Diani. Then we fly back. That's fictitious. That doesn't mean I love her. It means I'm competing with the world. She may fall for my nonsense, but she'll soon realize Jagero was the right guy. He was taking her where he can afford, and he wanted to show her who he is. I'm trying to show her what I can do. Which one is more sustainable?
I would rather cry in a Mercedes Benz than be happy on a bicycle.
Weird analogy, because they've neither been in a Mercedes Benz and neither do they own a bicycle. So I think they need to look for something else. They're probably on Anduthi or a tuk-tuk. Then that might make sense. But they're probably never in a Mercedes Benz and they don't own a bicycle. First, they can't ride a bicycle. And I've rarely seen people crying on bicycles either. Not unless somebody's chasing you or an animal. So the analogy also doesn't make sense. But that again is based on our fake lives. COVID showed me the true nature of humans all around the world. When a woman says, even though my husband has taken care of me for 21 years, now that he's been made redundant, I'm sorry, but I don't find him manly anymore. That should pinch every man on earth. That already tells me you've survived with this woman for 21 years or probably more, yet your stake in this was the fact that you could provide provisions. She never loved Jagero, but she loved the holidays and the provision of us. All our kids went to the right schools. He upgraded me from this house to that house. I drive that Mercedes Benz. But now the Jagero has lost his title as CEO or director or senior management, or is no longer a man, because that's what quantified him as a man. That's the world we live in.
And how do I ask these questions? Because I need to ask it properly, and I can't find the words.
Right.
So I'll just be direct and ask, what do you say to this type of woman that doesn't see a man for who he is, but rather for the things that they bring to the table?
Jagero, this is the harsh truth.
Yeah.
I really have no right to tell her that she's wrong. Do you know why? That's her choice. It's not mine. If we start going around telling people that there's a moral truth, and the moral truth is you should appreciate your man, that's nonsense. In my opinion, is she a terrible person? Yes. But that's because I equate decency in regards to, regardless of whether we have money or not, I picked you for us to strive together. So in the good and bad. And that's not me being a good person. It's just being what I equate as decent. You've now gone over the line. And to me, you're not a decent person. But I have no right to tell you that you're not a decent person. I just don't. What I can do is, I can now tell men, you need to be careful who you align yourself with. The same way I've told women in the past, you need to be careful which man you align with. And that's what I was saying. It starts with our foundation of fake relationships. She's only with me because I took her somewhere nice. But I didn't take her somewhere nice to impress her. That's where I would normally go. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like the way men complain that when I met her in a bar, she was drinking Tusker cider. But when I met her again and I was hitting on her, she said, oh, by the way, may I take Martell? Really? How did you move from Tusker cider to Martell? Would you be rude to tell somebody, why don't you drink something that you'd normally afford for yourself? Is that rude? Is it rude?
It's bordering on rude.
Why?
Because it's
guess what?
It's truth that you don't want to.
It's not rude when the woman's telling the man.
That?
It's only rude when the man is telling the woman.
Yes.
Do you know that?
Yes.
A woman has the right to tell me, Madakasi, I've invited you. And last time when I met you, you were drinking White Cup.
Yes.
How you've ordered champagne, dude. You yourself usually order champagne. So you take your White Cup. Has she been rude? No, she's giving me facts. But if I dare switch that over and tell a woman, it's a little rude.
Women, a lot of us cut slack for the things that women do.
We do what, sorry?
We cut them a lot of slack. Like we, again, this is not politically correct to say. But I'm going to say that somebody else said it.
Which is what?
That there is a gentleman who told me that women act like children. You know? And so whatever silly thing they say, should ignore them. Don't take them seriously.
Okay.
What would you say to that?
I would say I've met men who are the same as well. It's not really a woman-man thing. It's down to a certain individual. Now, I understand whoever said that is also saying it from their experience with a woman. But the truth is, just because one woman tainted an image, she shouldn't taint it for all women. I've met great women. I've met women who their energy, their space is just amazing. They will back you up. These are women, yes, who will help you. I'm not buddies with her, but I can call her and say, hey, I have a bit of a shortfall. Maurice, what is it you want? I need 5K. Ding! M-Pesa.
Yes.
My buddies, male buddies, rather die, I'll do anything for you. Dare ask you for 500 shillings. Hey, boss, you know I've just paid school fees. Do you know my car needed service? And do you know why this is a bit ridiculous? 3 nights ago, you insisted on buying me 3 muzingas of whiskey. Yet I only asked for a few tots. Pana, today I'm treating you, boss. Today you're crawling home.
Yeah.
So you can spend 20,000 bob and above on me when we're drinking, but you can't give me 500 shillings to buy medicine?
Psychologically, what does this tell us about humans or about men? Because you're not the first person that is saying it, but
okay.
A lot of...
The thing is this. Most of our friends that we mingle with a lot are acquaintances. Friends are people who come together and they help each other when there is need. I'm not talking about those people who will just take advantage because we've decided that we can help each other. Friends are people who can genuinely see this guy would never ask for something unless they needed it. I'm not talking about that friend who calls you on a Thursday and tells you, dude, I need 20 G's and by Monday morning you'll have it. Even you, when you calculate, I'm giving you money on a Thursday, 20 G's, and you're bringing it back on Monday. I'm thinking that means you'll probably get it on Sunday or Monday morning. Why can't you just wait for Monday? Because it's only a few days down the line. Isn't that a logical thing?
Yes.
Sometimes don't you wonder when somebody asks you for money, I'd have preferred you told me, I'll give you 20 G's, but give me 30 days. Give me 60 days. But I'm going to give you 5 days to return the money. So you just wait for the money you'd have returned. And then you're calling me on a Thursday. So I know this 20 G's. I'm paying for your hangout for the weekend. There's no emergency. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yet that woman I was describing, she doesn't even have to be a woman. It can be a guy. It can be Jagero. We don't hang out, but we're buddies. But I suddenly call you and you can tell from my tone that this guy's in trouble. And you send me money and I return the money. But when it comes to guys I drink with, very skeptical about giving them money because I won't see it. So our friendships are also weird. The other thing I find weird is, why do we have male chamas to bury each other. Women have chamas to build estates. What the hell is that? Is that why you're buying me so many whiskeys? You try to kill me?
So, all right, people of the internet, thank you very much for listening into the second episode of this first season of our series. Okay, Matheka, it's always great to talk with you.
Always good to be in your company as well.
A lot of insight.
Yes.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, people of the internet, please consider subscribing. Because
you need to subscribe.
Another episode is coming up.
Oh, yes, it is.
All right. So hit on that notification bell. All right. And when it is out, you will be notified. Thank you very much. And until another episode, bye for now.